College students enjoy, shall we say, closeness, yet COVID isn't spreading quickly on Colorado's campuses.
This year, it is very clear that college campuses are actually a way that we can help contain the spread of the virus.
Same can't be said statewide. We are at a peak for ICU bed usage. Colorado's calling in FEMA to help and putting buses in hospital parking lots. A new tool to identify neighborhoods hurt by pollution gets a skeptical reaction from those neighbors who say the state knows right where they are. And the only thing Coloradans like less than the Raiders is voting this year. Turn out for what? Next. Colorado's colleges and universities are proving that containing COVID-19 is possible. So we know COVID spreads through respiratory droplets. We know that college students like sharing respiratory droplets. Yet our Mark Salinger found they are also successfully stopping the spread of the virus on campus.
The busiest place on campus this year might just be the line for the spit test.
We do 9,000 to 10,000 tests a week.
The University of Denver has some of the strictest COVID protocols of any school in the state. Even with a 97% vaccination rate, students and staff are still required to test regularly for COVID and wear masks indoors.
By doing that, we're able to feel really confident that we have the situation under control.
Sarah Watamura is the chair of the psychology department at DU and the university's COVID response coordinator. Of the more than 9,000 tests processed at the school in the past week, only 0.32% have come back positive. Compare that with the rest of the state, where the positivity rate around Colorado this week is at 8.9%.
If you do not follow your required testing schedule, if you test positive, you will not be able to access buildings. Your badge will not work.
Because students and staff have to swipe into every building, contact tracing becomes easier as well, and a lot quicker than any contact tracing still happening outside the campus gates.
We trace a positive case, generally speaking, in about an hour.
Across town at MSU Denver,
if you are vaccinated, you do not have to be tested every week.
Vaccinations are required, but 10% of students have submitted exemptions. They're the only ones who are required to get tested regularly. Larry Sampler is the chief operating officer at the university, where the positivity rate over the past week is at just 1.7%.
If you are vaccinated, there are more liberties than if you're not vaccinated, but we want everyone to feel welcome on the campus.
On campuses across the state, there are protocols that help keep the COVID transmission low. Outside, it's hard to notice any restrictions at all.
It is very clear that college campuses are actually a way that we can help contain the spread of the virus because of the protocols we're able to put in place.
All thanks to protocols like the spit test.
Now, while all the biggest universities in the state require COVID vaccines, not all of them have as strict of protocols as DU. Take CU, for example, where the vaccination rate up there in Boulder is 94%, but the people who got exemptions are not required to get tested. CU has done just under 6,000 COVID tests since the beginning of August, where DU does around 9,000 to 10,000 tests a week. The positivity rate at CU, Kyle, is low, but that's a much smaller sample.
So, Mark, anytime we see somebody having success in the pandemic that others are not, we're always curious, like, are they doing something different, or are they just doing the same thing better?
Yeah, it's not necessarily new. I mean, we saw contact tracing. We saw people trying to get as many people as possible getting tested on a regular basis. That contact tracing, though, is really interesting because they can determine whether there's a positive case within just an hour and then go back and forth. We tried doing that in the rest of society. It just didn't really work out as planned.
Yeah, people in charge of universities have a lot more control over people's day-to-day lives out in society. But it does remind me of some of the stuff that you're starting to see in Western Europe, where it's just like, if you want access to public spaces and to be around other people, here are the rules.
If we can control the virus, and I think that's important.
All right, Mark, thank you. So Colorado's ICU beds are currently more full than at any other time during the pandemic. Asterisk on that. There were times when we had more COVID patients in ICU beds, but that was after emergency measures that added a bunch more ICU bed capacity. Bottom line, right now, might seem normal, but we are not in a good place if the goal is to keep the most number of Coloradans alive. Hospitalizations are still at their high plateau, more than 11,000 patients. They did tick down just a bit today. Capacity statewide is the issue. 92% of acute care beds are full, 93% of ICU beds are full. So we know that Democratic Governor Jared Polis is very averse to statewide mandates and measures. But as this latest wave has not broken, Governor is taking some emergency steps to ease the strain on health care. The state is going to ask FEMA for help with hospitals. It'll put a hold on non-emergency surgeries and make it easier to transfer patients from overwhelmed hospitals to ones with capacity.
I would expect that unless cases drop off in the next few days, and that's not something I necessarily expect, I would love to be pleasantly surprised, but unless cases drop off, you will see 2 or 3 of these items go in the next week or so.
So we are also at the everything is fine stage of the pandemic, where the state is now going to send buses to hospital parking lots so that COVID-infected patients can get their monoclonal antibody treatments on board the buses instead of taking up space inside crowded hospitals. If you want to do something cool and exclusive that the vast majority of Coloradans are not doing these days, you should vote in this election. 85% of eligible voters have not returned a ballot. Maybe you're just waiting for the answer to a specific question. Maybe politics guy Marshall Zellinger has the answer.
John reached out to me on Instagram wanting an explanation about why Proposition 120 does not impact all property owners. We touched on this last week. After Proposition 120 qualified for the ballot, but before you got a chance to vote on it, state lawmakers changed the part of state law that Proposition 120 impacts. Proposition 120 will only impact certain property owners. It would reduce part of the property tax equation for multifamily property owners, but not single-family homeowners or condo owners. It would also reduce it for lodging property like hotels and motels, but no other non-residential property. If Proposition 120 passes, the people who put it on the ballot expect to go to court to get it to impact all property owners as they intended. Now to the Denver ballots. Dave, Gary, and Michael Myers, no, not the scary one, want to know if bond issues 2A through 2E are a tax increase or not. These 5 ballot questions are asking permission for the city to borrow money to pay for infrastructure needs and then pay it back with existing property tax money based on the city's current property tax rate. The shall property taxes be increased near the bottom of each question is basically saying if property taxes tank and the city cannot cover the repayment cost, you're giving the city permission to raise the rate if needed to cover the difference. Stephen emailed a question about what happens if ballot issue 301 and 302 both pass. In the most simplistic explanation, 301 essentially protects Park Hill Golf Course from being developed without a future vote of Denver residents. 302 essentially allows for the development of Park Hill Golf Course. If they both pass and there's a conflict between the two, the ballot issue that got the most votes in favor wins out.
At least that's what we think. One other issue about 302. In an email to me, Charles thought that the correction mailer Denver sent out earlier this month that we reported on, he thought it meant you don't have to vote on ballot issue 302 anymore. Charles and everyone else, 302 is still an active ballot issue. The city of Denver sent a correction about the financial explanation in the city's blue book, but it's still something you need to vote on.
Sometimes I think that people are confused when we say that we are literally at your service with these ballot questions. If people have additional questions beyond what you haven't answered, they can just email in next@9news.com. You can hit a bunch tomorrow for them.
Yeah, and I'm surprised I got somebody on Instagram too. But yes, we still have another day. We have Monday if we really need to. And you need to hand deliver or go vote in person, hand deliver, drop box, something like that. Don't put it in the mail. So there is still time to answer your question and still get your ballot in.
Yeah, so people need to be like Marshall, who is for sure already voted by now.
It's a prop. I haven't turned it in yet.
You
I'm
haven't
part of the
turned in
85%. I'm turning it in. I just need it just in case I need to shoot footage of it or something before I start bubbling them in. It's a prop.
What's my excuse? I haven't voted either yet. I will vote. I swear to you, I will vote. I will vote. I will vote. You have to vote too. We'll be right back. There's a new tool to find which communities are most hurt by pollution, as if we don't know where they are. Thank you for the direction, sir. If you have skied Colorado, he's helped you get from point A to point B. His next destination is retirement. And remembering a woman who broke up the boys' club on Denver television news. Next. Once we buy the naming rights, you can still call it Mile High. It's no big deal. Every time the airport train breaks, a bunch of you ask the same good question. You think maybe the airport would have another way to get people out to terminals B and C? I mean, DI has known this could be an issue for a long time. Today, the airport asked businesses to send in their ideas to fix it. The latest high-profile faceplant was a blown tire on a train this summer. That is when we learned that trains have tires. Anyway, train was down for hours at the airport. DIA had to throw together this plan that bussed people out to the B and C terminals. DIA CEO Phil Washington said that any solution to the train issue would have to be worth the price tag of fixing an issue that DIA considers to be like a 100-year flood, which I think means it needs to be cheap.
What a beautiful fall day. Clear skies, sunshine, and comfortable temperatures in the 50s and 60s. Guess what? We're headed for 70 tomorrow, ahead of a storm system approaching from the Pacific Northwest. Still dealing with some gusty winds on the backside of this cell just to the east of the Wichita area. This area of low pressure will move away. High pressure sets up, and we have about 48 hours to enjoy quiet weather. 35 tonight. Temperatures tomorrow will soar into the lower 70s. Saturday looks beautiful, but Sunday, Halloween, a little scary. Cloudy and cooler with a 20% chance that we'll see a rain or snow shower, light snow Monday morning, unsettled Tuesday, and the chance for a little more light rain and snow on Wednesday.
Colorado's health department has this new tool to detect areas most impacted by pollution. Yet we're hearing from neighbors in those places who are basically like, the state knows where we are, they know where the pollution is, there's no need for a new tool, there's solutions. The Colorado EnviroScreen tool is essentially an interactive mapping application. It will track and display communities in the state where pollution is having the most impact. It tracks pollution exposures, environmental impacts, health outcomes, and the socioeconomic factors of those areas. We're showing you how a similar app looks in other states. It's supposed to help state regulators identify neighborhoods that are disproportionately impacted by pollution. Project's currently in its public input phase, which goes through Halloween. Here's the thing. The tool requires people in those impacted communities to go on and self-report pollution problems.
In all aspects of the tool, every communication we have with the public is in both English and Spanish. The final version of the tool will be in both languages. We had a Spanish language focus group. We had full interpretation services available with some presentations done in Spanish during our public meeting. So we are really emphasizing that language justice component. And that includes ensuring that we're using unique forms of outreach to reach our Spanish-speaking communities and our immigrant communities who maybe don't use the same channels of communication that I use often as a monolingual English speaker.
The EnviroScreen tool is a waste of time, according to Harmony Cummins, who's the founder of Greenhouse Connection Center. That group fights for environmental justice in the El Rio-Swansea neighborhood and other minority communities.
I don't need a map and something on a website that tells me that. The people in those communities know. What we need is for other people out here to know and care. And I want to hear what they're going to do about it. Not we're waiting for other organizations and people to step up, especially the people in these communities themselves. These folks are tired. These people have been sick. These people are just working 3 jobs to try. They're here. A lot of them are undocumented, trying to put food on the table, afraid of the evictions. So to say we're giving you this tool to empower yourself is a slap in the face.
Cummings says a lot of the communities we're talking about don't have great internet access, one more barrier to using the tool. She said that neighbors also would need training on it, and she suggested stipends for the people who invest their time in helping the state out. State Health Department said it will offer $45 gift cards for neighbors who give input. The EnviroScreen tool is expected to be fully rolled out by next summer. She walked into a male-dominated newsroom and held her own. Viewers in Colorado noticed. We remember Linda BENZEL. And he's been Colorado's guide to the mountain for decades.
I'm retiring from trail maps, but I'm not really retiring. I'm really moving on to a new passion.
Thanks for keeping me out of the moguls, James. I'm real bad at the bumps. Next. Longtime Denver News viewers will recognize the name Linda BENZEL. 9 News anchor in the 80s and 90s, passed away yesterday. Our Marshall Zellinger was a young viewer when she was on the air.
Good evening, I'm Linda BENZEL.
Before local news journalists were easily accessible on social media.
All right, great.
There was Linda BENZEL, an anchor who seemed familiar, as if she were talking one-on-one with you.
Well, thanks for making 9 News part of your day.
She was the first anchor I recognized and remembered by name and by face. Growing up, my parents watched 9 News and Channel 4, which explains why she was so familiar. There was Linda on my TV anchoring for years here at 9 News. And then there was Linda on my TV when she moved over to Channel 4. Her husband, Jess, remembers Linda priding herself on being a journalist, coming to work hours early because she refused to read any script that she had not written herself. She left Colorado before I was even a journalist, yet I feel like I knew her just as well as anyone who worked by her side. Linda BENZEL certainly left her signature in this studio. She was 72.
Local news anchor Jim Beneman, who I guess works at some other station in town, remarked today about Linda BENZEL's amazing wit, laugh, and talent. Here's an odd question. Did the phone on the 9 News set ever ring? Did they ever pick it up? Was there ever news? I was not around then. Let me know. Chances are, if you have skied or snowboarded in Colorado, you know this guy's work. James Nehus has painted hundreds of ski resort trail maps over the last 3 decades. He's ready now to set down the paintbrush and retire from trail map making.
In this world of computers and computer-generated images, to this day, the best way to illustrate a ski area is by hand. I'm James Nehus. I'm a ski map illustrator. Been illustrating ski maps for 31 years. Over here we have Crested Butte. I've painted maps for right at 200 ski resorts around the world and in the U.S. And then Snowbird in Utah.
James is going to have a lasting impact on our sport. He's just got a lot of passion and persistence and patience. He turned a 2D image into a 3D image. You could see the valleys, you could see the crevices, you could see the trees. You're like, I want to go ski that line.
We're up here at Sunspot.
You know, I've had a marvelous career painting trail maps, but I felt the last month or two that I am going to retire from painting ski maps. I'm retiring from trail maps, but I'm not really retiring. I'm really moving on to a new passion. Well, I'm a landscape artist at heart, so this is what I'm getting into now. I realize that I'm 75 now and I don't have a whole lot of time to do these. So that's where my passion lies now.
He took a passion and turned it into a career, which is why he's so successful.
I'm not really retiring. I'm just moving to another passion.
Kind of embarrassing. You always look at those maps and I just thought, oh yeah, of course they all look the same, and never really thought they look the same because it's one man's particular talent. The Colorado Snow Sports Museum auctioned off 2 of James's original pieces today and brought in more than $62,000 for that museum. Its trip to the post office involved the whole crew from the ranch. The most Colorado thing we saw today, plus your feedback, next. The most Colorado thing we saw today is rounding up the whole ranch for a trip to the post office. There are 2 horses, 3 German Shepherds, and presumably some humans at the LaPorte post office. It also looks like the horses had something to drop off at the post office as well. Jessica took this photo, sent it our way. If you see something that says Colorado to you, share it with the whole state. Email next@9news.com or use the hashtag HeyNext on Twitter. Julie writes in, come on, Kyle, you phrase it like the DIA train breaks down all the time. Not at all. Do not get that impression. It's not about the frequency of the breakdowns. It's about the impact, shutting down operations to B and C when the train does break down. Joe says, please explain why COVID positivity is important. Fewer people are being tested. Great point, Joe. Positivity and case numbers are wonky metrics. We try to focus on hospitalizations and bed use.